Hey, hello, and welcome to our first major pilot of this brand new show we're doing. Still working through some names because, as you all know, the internet is a vast place, and every original idea has been done, so we're going to be looking for some more. This is Dom, aka Brother Dom. I'm sure you may know me if you're seeing this, and I am joined by my co host. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Stephanie. I also go by the Snow Queer on Tumblr.
Oh, yeah. So, So we are looking to have a nice, lovely chat with our great new guest. If you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. My name's Tzufit Allen. I do kind of just general pop culture analysis on Twitter at SOEZufi. I blog very occasionally, but the main thing I'm working on right now is a podcast called Pop Culture Coven. And other than that, I play a lot of video games.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a nice chat today then. Great. So I mean, just as the really get the ball rolling, what do you really consider pop culture? Like, what's your pop culture umbrella? For say.
For me, I tend to be pretty sci-fi oriented. So my favorite aspects of pop culture are going to be things like Star Trek, Star Wars, Mass Effect, like anything that kind of falls under that umbrella. But in a broader sense, I mean, just like anything that sort of has a mass appeal at this point that like is the thing that people are going to be talking about, whether that's a TV show or a movie or a novel or a game, like anything that kind of gets that like water cooler discussion going, or these days like Twitter discussion, I guess.
Oh, cool. Anything that would kind of elicit a hashtag,
Yeah,
essentially.
for sure.
Cool. So you said like Star Trek and Star Wars. We're gonna just jump right into the heavy things. We're not even gonna play any games. What do you prefer, Star Trek or Star Wars?
Oh my gosh, that's
Oh, we're not
awful.
even.
That's so awful.
That's mean.
I love
It's
them both for like completely different reasons. Okay, but I won't cop out on this. I will say that the current state of Star Trek versus the current state of Star Wars,
Okay, that's fair.
That's
a very
really
question.
fair.
I'm gonna say Star Wars for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah,
Force
definitely.
Awakens is just one of the most amazing movies I've ever seen, and not just like Star Wars movies or sci-fi movies. It is just a good movie.
I'm on board with you on that.
And like for me, the sort of reboot Star Trek movies are just not hitting what Star Trek is about for me. So
yeah,
like
they're really like they don't get that like philosophical aspect that the original series had.
no, for sure, and they have like no interest in the political aspect of the original series at all, or
Yeah.
any of the series. So like, I mean, I'm really interested to see what this new Star Wars television reboot looks like. But if it looks like the movies, I'm probably not here for it.
Yeah, well, I really trust Brian Fuller with kind of my life after his Hannibal, so I have a good feeling about the new series.
I hope you're right.
See, optimism. We jumped right on it. Okay. So we're gonna just keep on the heavy questions. Like, you've inspired me to just knock it out. Out of the three main characters in The Force Awakens, who's your favorite?
Finn for sure.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
we are soul friends on that. Finn is my dude. He is the guy.
I mean, I love Ray. Well, I love all of them, really. But, like, Finn, for me, like, first of all, so funny. Such a great
Exactly.
hero. Like, and so, I mean, I just love Finn's story of, like, going from stormtrooper to this person who is, like, I mean, Finn is, like, the carer of that group. He's got, like, the biggest heart of all of them. And it was just great to watch him, like, take that journey. And it's not like he was, like a Grinch that learned to have a big heart by the end of the movie. Finn had a big heart to start with. He was just in the wrong place.
Exactly. I like that. He's a really fun character. Just having all the. He seemed to be real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every now and then you'll watch movies, and especially like in the horror genre, people will do things, and you're screaming at the screen, "Why are you doing that?" But know what the movie is. But then in Star Wars, they're like, "We got to go back to Jakku," and Finn's like, "Why does everybody want to go back there?" And
Yeah. Or his misunderstandings of things that seem perfectly logical. Like, we're just going to use the Force, Like,
that's not how the Force works.
but it seems like, hey, if you're not a Jedi, it seems like that's probably a pretty good way to get through something,
Yeah, the Force is magic, right? That's how we
Right.
fix things.
Right.
As a possibly not as big of a nerd as I want to be. I'm not 100% sure how the Force works. So when you said that, had there been a Jedi there, they may have said, yeah, okay, it'll work.
No, and you're right. And certainly those, whatever rules there are about how the Force works, I doubt that they're written in stone. So who knows? Finn could have been right.
Hey, he was with two non-Jedi who probably don't know how the Force works, so
Yeah.
he may have been right about that after all. Okay, cool, good stuff. So we jumped right into the heavy stuff. Let's back up a little bit, if you guys are fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
We were just chit-chatting a little bit, and if you don't mind getting into it, like, we're kind of from the same area, it seems like, right?
Yeah, we're all from around Pittsburgh here.
So I'd feel remiss if we didn't have the chance to get a little bit yinzery and that sort of stuff.
Oh no.
Gosh.
Oh, why not? You know, do you have any sports teams that you're a fan of? Are you into sports at all?
I am, not in like a sort of, super fan kind of way, but I absolutely always go to a couple of Pirates games every year. Not as like hardcore into the Steelers. I mean, like, I'm gonna root for them,
Right.
like, for sure. But in terms of like what games I want to go to in person, it's usually the Pirates for me. And like every once in a blue moon, a Penguins game. It's not, I mean, I love going to hockey games. It's just like, I don't know, it seems like more of an endeavor to get Pens tickets than Pirates tickets. So.
Oh yeah, there's much harder to get, and it's just harder to get to that part of the city and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I always gotta love our city because it's, if you have a black and gold piece of anything, you can just wear it and people will assume that you're supposed to be there. I have a black and gold Zelda scarf, and people are like, "Hey, you really like Pittsburgh, right?" Like, yeah, sure, buddy. It's whatever you say.
Well, I mean, and it expands out so far too. Like just today, one of my friends asked me, kind of out of the blue, "What do you think of Jeff Goldblum?" And I'm like, "Well, he's from Pittsburgh, so
obviously,
yeah,
So obviously I love him.
like Michael Keaton's from Pittsburgh too, right?
yeah, he is."
Oh yeah, I could just see we can nerd out about nerdy type celebrities just from the city of Pittsburgh. That could be its own thing.
Well, it's funny how far the like people who root for Pittsburgh stuff, like how far distant that reaches. Like my mom was
Yes.
on vacation in Key West, like down at the very end of the Florida Keys, and there's a Steelers bar a block from her condo.
There
Like,
are
they have a flag
Steelers
outside.
bars everywhere. It's amazing. I know there's a kind of a huge contingent of it in like the Baltimore area. I guess because like a lot of people when they leave Pittsburgh head down that way. Yeah, really ironically, a huge contingent of Steelers bars in the Baltimore area. But yeah, I mean, it seems like pretty much every major city you go to, there's at least one Steelers bar there.
I gotta love the pride behind it. I saw there was some Pittsburgh list that was like craziest places they might have Steelers bar, right? So apparently some space station at one point had a terrible towel, which is literally the most ridiculous thing.
Does
Well,
having a terrible towel make it count as a Steelers bar?
I think so.
I think it does.
If
That's
there's
the
a terrible
requirement?
towel and access to alcohol, I think you have a Steelers bar.
Nice.
That's like, you could say that Steelers bar is out of this world.
Oh.
No, I couldn't help it. But also, I saw like some army guys were in some conflict in the Middle East, and there was a Steelers bar over there too. And I'm not really sure how that works or who it was for, but it was there, and they were happy to be there, and everyone was pretty all right with that. So
That's
it-
amazing.
it just expands everywhere. But just to kind of bring it back to nerdy stuff, since I feel that's what people might like as much. Did you know about the Star Wars Day that they had with the Pirates a while back?
No.
So I saw this on TV, like through Twitter first, but a bunch of people, like the city of Pittsburgh has, but I think a couple other MLB teams do, is just dress up in Star Wars costumes and T-shirts and come to the game, and we're gonna like announce it and talk about it and stuff. So there was like all these old guys wearing Jedi robes, just like in the front row
gosh.
at
I
PNC
can't
Park.
believe I missed this.
Yeah, it's like a
That's so
yearly
amazing.
thing. So I mean, we're like one of these. I really like how nerdy our city's starting to be.
Yes.
Like we have the largest furry convention,
Right.
a growing anime convention. Our sports teams love nerdy things. It's a great city. We're that kind. Just kind of a weird coincidence. We just scream out into Twitter, and the first person who we get a response is, "Oh, hey, by the way, I'm from the Steel City as well." The world's smaller than it seems. So we're just gonna, just jump back into some stuff. So you have your pop culture coven.
Mhm.
So what really inspired you to have a show on pop culture in general?
I'm curious, why Coven?
So, a while ago, I was looking into making a new blog for myself, because originally when I kind of started jumping into like the nerd community online, it was pretty much from the vantage point of the World of Warcraft community.
Okay.
I really started out there, like, kind of writing guides for, like, raiding and that sort of thing. And when I stopped playing World of Warcraft, I was like, well, crap. Now my blog title is kind of irrelevant because it was something that was along those lines. So I needed something new. And I ended up going with Pop Culture Coven. I don't even remember why, to be completely honest with you. I think because I liked the way it sounded, and I found a cool picture of a black cat, and I was like, yeah, all right, that seems good. So then, when I went to start my own podcast, I was like, you know what? As we talked about briefly before we started recording the show, naming things is awful. It is the worst part of creating anything. So I was like, I'm not going through that process again. I'm just going to use the same name. It's going to fit because I'm having conversations about characters from pop culture media. So whatever, I give up.
Hey, that's a good enough story right there. I like it.
But the reason I decided to do it, I was part of a gaming podcast that focused on feminism and social justice in gaming called Justice Points for a long time with a friend of mine, Apple Cider Mage. And when we decided...
Heard about them.
Yeah. Well, when she and I decided to end the show, I was kind of in a place where I had already recorded conversations that I had with a couple of friends about specific characters. So my idea was I wanted to do these kind of one-off shows with me talking to a guest about a single character that's important to them. And that was how the idea for the podcast came about. And I also wanted to do something with like really tight editing and with a sort of fixed time limit to kind of challenge myself, number one, to get better at audio editing, and number two, to try and like convey a message in a pretty short period of time. So my episodes are only 20 minutes long.
That's a nice time though. It's like pretty bite-sized, and you can get through them. Enjoy it real quickly.
Right. Like, I know a lot of people listen to podcasts on their commute, and certainly there are plenty of people out there who have like 1 hour plus commutes. But like for me, I work like 5 minutes from my house, but I know a lot of people have that sweet spot of like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And I really wanted to try and fit something in that like would make sense if you got a 20-minute drive to work.
Oh, nice.
That is actually where I do all of my podcast listening, so it's a good call.
Hey, it's I like that you brought that up, because I definitely like the viewpoint and the idea of shorter podcasts, though, just shorter media in general.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it more accessible, I think.
Yeah, and I found too, like one of the things I was really worried about was, since I'm drawing from like just a kind of a really eclectic variety of characters, because I'm basically like going to my friends and being like, hey, name a character that's important to you, let's talk about it. So as you can imagine, like I'm getting a wide variety of responses, and I was worried that like maybe people wouldn't want to listen to all of the episodes because a lot of these characters aren't necessarily going to be maybe somebody they're even familiar with. But what I've found overwhelmingly is that people are willing to listen to 20 minutes about anything. So
Yeah.
That's true. I will throw on a 20-minute podcast. It's part of my drive, especially on the days where it's an hour and 20 minutes, and I burn through my hour podcast and I have an awkward 20 minutes of, do I want to listen to the radio? Do I want to start a new podcast? Or am I going to just default to listening to the Hamilton soundtrack again?
You really can't go wrong there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if anyone knows me, they know the option that I chose and continue to choose. That's definitely great. So how do you really feel about game length? That's been a hot topic pretty recently. How long should games be to really be worth their time and their money?
Right.
But yeah, do you have any thoughts about game or how we should really look at that?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about game.
Lay them on us.
So for me personally, I've found that I do not want giant sprawling games at this point. I want something that I can play in a couple of settings. And like I just finished playing over the weekend Oxenfree, which was like a perfect length to me. It was appropriately long enough to tell the story that it wanted to tell. Felt the same way about Firewatch when I played that a couple of weeks ago. So like in general for me, when it comes to new games, and I'm particularly interested in playing basically two types of games right now. I'm interested in short narrative focused games and like PvP multiplayer stuff. And
Yes.
so like for me, I'm not looking for I absolutely love a handful of sprawling epics. I will come back to Skyrim several times a year. I'm always playing either Dragon Age or Mass Effect or both. But like I have those sprawling epics that I want to come back to, and I really do not need every game that I play to be that. And in fact, I prefer it not be that, because I just don't tend to finish them anymore. Like it's just too long at some point, and while I'm at it, you know, I also feel like every game does not need to be an open world game. I really
That's
wish
so true.
I wish we would get away from that, because I think it's sort of a waste of development resources to spend that much time making something an open world game where that's really like inappropriate to the setting or the story you're trying to tell. Like
Yes.
so much of that time could be spent elsewhere. So
It's kind of what I heard that happened with the Mad Max game, is that it ended up being open world, and everyone said there was no reason to do that. It should have just essentially been a car chase game, like a movie, but you made it an open world, and it kind of took away from that.
Right. Yeah, and like that's fun enough. Mad Max is a great movie. Car chases are a fun genre of games, so like let that stand.
It's literally a whole genre. You have Need for Speeds, your Burnouts, all those. It's essentially, hey, a car chase works, so just throw like some trucks in there, a few more female protagonists, and some guy with a guitar, and you have a Mad Max game.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's good stuff. So yeah, I definitely agree with you on game length there. I'm kind of falling between, you know, your adventures, like your short ones. You know, I really like Undertale because I can finish it. I'm playing a few other RPGs from Steam, but then I have games like Hyrule Warriors, Super Smash Bros., Splatoon that are okay. The story mode was whatever. It was a couple hours long. It's not why you bought it, but it's there. You can just keep going back to it every day. Smash Bros. I think came out at the end of 2014. And I'm still playing it. Splatoon came out last June. I'm still playing that. Hyrule Warriors I had to step away from because it was frustrating, but you know, it's keeps on being good. So, like you said, anyone will give something a try for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't play a lot of video games, but I think that anything a little bit shorter is going to make it more accessible to new people. Like
Right.
looking even at books, like going into a fantasy series like Game of Thrones, where there are a ton of books that are all 1,000 pages. You're like, maybe I'll just watch the show. But if it's a shorter set of books, you're like, maybe I'll give it a try.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely one of the things I think that holds a lot of people out of comics, is that each issue
True.
is really, really short, but the story itself can span
go-
years.
Yeah.
At least.
God, yes.
Then you have your retcons and your alternate universes.
And how
all
much
that.
lore do you really need to understand before you even jump into an issue? Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the weird thing, is that sometimes you don't need to know anything, but it would just make it more fun, and then sometimes, no, you absolutely need to know all this for content. I think it's hard to go. I think the Marvel universe is doing a pretty good job of that. They're also the cinematic universe, at least. And they're doing a good job of saying, hey, here's some details. Some of this would make more sense if you read the comics. You don't need to know. I think people actually want to go research and join in and theorize and all that kind of.
They've been doing a little bit better recently with from a comic book standpoint, as far as kind of restarting books with about certain characters every so often, so that there's a new number one for new people to jump onto.
That's useful.
It wasn't always the case.
See, the only two comic series I really follow, because I'm quote unquote a fake geek, are just licensed series, and it's just Sonic and Mega Man. And I remember, you know, when I was a little kid, about 20 years ago, I picked up some of those Sonic comics, and they were cute little fun adventures, but I just kind of stopped it. That series never stopped the whole time. So and as one might imagine, it started to get confusing because it didn't follow the games, but then it started to, and then it stopped. So people were like, what's going on in this series? And then eventually they said, you know what, we're going to do a crossover with Mega Man. It's not canon in the Mega Man universe, but it is canon in the Sonic universe.
Oh my gosh.
And it's,
Lord.
and it's, but the funny thing is that, you know what, this is going to retcon everything, and we're going to say that it's that, and people are going to say, I have these memories, and they're going to be like, well, they're not real anymore because of that reset we did. Which sounds complicated because it is, but if you didn't know that and you just picked it up at the retcon, it would just look like, oh, there's a couple issues of exposition that don't make any sense, which they don't if you knew what was going on, so it's fine. But then it's like, hey, we're going to follow the games now, so if you weren't paying attention to the comics, it doesn't matter. But if you were, here's some Easter eggs. And that's my Sonic spiel of the day.
He's required to do at least one every day.
Well, that seems fair.
We only have one segment, and that's it. Excellent. So, we have a few rapid-fire questions if you're up for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You know, it kind of just makes a little bit more fun. Let's things get a little bit, you know, either more fun or awkward or weird. Who knows which way it'll go. But answer them to as little or high degree as you want.
Okay.
How's that sound?
All right. I can handle that.
Okay. So, I know I just introed it, but Steph, do you want to pick one of these out?
Oh, yeah, sure. What do you do when you're feeling down to cheer yourself up?
I find the nearest cat in my house and I pick it up.
Are there many cats in your house?
3 currently, and a dog.
I have to ask, what kind of dog?
He's an Australian Shepherd.
Oh.
I like the nice dogs.
Yep.
I have a Rottweiler, and she's the biggest baby. Don't listen to what people say. They're not mean dogs. Their bark is, well, their bite would probably be bad, but they don't have a bite because you pet them for a second, they are on their back, and they just want you to rub their tummy. That's all they want. Cats. This is probably the most internet conversation I've had. Okay, I'll take it in a different direction. If you could have one superpower for a week, what would it be?
Mine. Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, you don't have to worry about any of the bullcrap secondary effects where it's like you have super speed but not super endurance. Like, you get everything that you would need to actually use that power.
Okay. I'm torn between 2. Okay, I'm going to say mind reading, even though, like, I know I would regret it immediately. But I'm going to go with mind reading. My second choice was teleportation.
Why would you regret being able to mind read?
Oh, because, like, I mean, that just seems like such a rabbit hole of, like, this seems like a really good idea, but I don't actually want to know what people are thinking all the time. I'm sure it's terrible.
Oh, yeah. It's most likely terrible. I feel like the worst part would be, if you've ever had the experience yourself, is when you're thinking about something, but then you rapidly start thinking about something else, and you're like, I don't want to think about that, so you think about something else, and your mind's just going back and forth, and I can't imagine trying to listen to that conversation.
Right, yeah. Trying to follow that as an outsider would be a nightmare.
It's hard to do it to yourself. You said
That's true.
And teleportation, why would you want that?
Just because I have friends in so many different places, and because I want to travel so many places, and that would just make it, 1, easier, and 2, free. So
Free is very good.
Yeah.
Free is very important.
See, you did it to be practical. My go-to is always teleportation because I'm always late, and it would stop me from being quite as late.
Well, that's practical too, just in a different direction.
Exactly. What about you, Steph?
The superpower?
Yeah.
Man, I think my usual go-to is to be able to learn any language, like, immediately. Like Starfire in the comics, like, all she has to do is, like, kiss someone because it's Starfire. But but after she kisses them, she can speak their language. So whether it's like a human or an alien or whatever, like, that would be a really cool power to have. So because theoretically you could cheat and carry it over after your week was over. Like, maybe you would still know those languages after the week was over.
How does that work with bilingual people?
Bilingual people don't exist, Dom. They have to choose a side.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that simple rule. We do live in a binary universe. So you want to pick this next question?
Sure. What crossover would you like to see of any universes, of video game and a TV show,
man.
of anything?
I would say maybe like Star Trek and Mass Effect. I think I would be pretty excited about, because I mean, like we talked about before, I love the Star Trek universe, like, for its politics and for some of its characters, but I think Mass Effect would be really interesting to interject into Star Trek, because, like, Mass Effect has this insurmountable threat, right, to the galaxy with the Reapers, and it would be interesting to see how, like, the idealists of the Star Trek universe would try to find a way to figure that out.
Very cool.
Hey, Steph, you're next up on the block. Where do you cross it?
Oh, that's rough. I think I'm gonna say Star Trek and Homestuck.
Ah,
Because there's a lot of, like, interesting... Star Wars and Homestuck. Not Star Trek. Because I think that there's a lot of interesting, like psychic powers and confusing relationships and weird stuff going on that I think they would intersect kind of interestingly.
That's fair. Okay, I like it. I guess
You
the
too?
target's on me next. I'm gonna have to say, if I were to name one of, because there's so many good ones, it just goes on forever. I'm gonna have to say Gravity Falls and Rick and Morty.
Huh.
Because
You just really want it to be official.
I want to be official. There was a few hints, I don't know hints, but the creators are friends. But I like the idea of Gravity Falls. From what I've seen of it, there's some science going on, but like the older guys are kind of children's show vulgar. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if that rating was bumped up a little bit, I feel like they'd be the same kind of dudes as Rick from Rick and Morty, but nicer. You know what I mean? So I think with all the universe hopping, and super science in Rick and Morty, and the paranormal kind of stuff in Gravity Falls, I think it would just work out. Like I said, the creators are fans, so I feel like they know each other. I'm sorry, they're friends. I'm sure the creators would figure out a good way to make it work, at least for fun, non-canon episode.
Yeah.
Stuff. And the last rapid fire question we have, and we're still trying to build up the database of them, so we just have a whole wall. Give us a favorite, whether it's book, movie, game, or show. Favorite, just one of them. It doesn't have to be all four, just one favorite.
Okay, book, movie, game, or show. Well,
or anything else, song, etc.
It's hard to say definitively favorite game, but high up there for me is Transistor in terms of one of my favorite games of all time. Just great story, great art direction, amazing soundtrack that I still listen to all the time, even if I'm not playing the game all that often anymore. So Transistor.
It's a totally amazing soundtrack.
Yeah.
Funny story I have with that game, but I heard about the music, then I saw the art. I said, this is definitely a game I gotta play. Bought it on Steam, the soundtrack attached. I go to run it on my computer, my old computer, and it's just not running. I don't know if the graphics card was bad, but it just was not running no matter what I did. I said, well, I spent money on it, so I'm not going to spoil it. But I'm still going to listen to the soundtrack regardless. And man, that is a good soundtrack.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I have no significance to it, but it's a good soundtrack.
Well, hopefully you get a chance to play it eventually, because it is an amazing game. It's super fun combat and just like a really good story, too.
It definitely did look interesting. They tried to... It looked kind of, just from the reviews I saw, to be more of a action-oriented, turn-based sort of affair.
Yeah,
and
it's really kind of an interesting hybrid of, like, basically you have so much time to be able to plan out the actions that you want to take, and so you plan those out, and it kind of uses up like an action bar, and then it takes so long for that to replenish, and then you can plan out your next set of actions. But in your downtime, you can still, like, move around and dodge attacks from enemies and that kind of thing.
Okay, cool. I like that. I was like they were kind of throwing some styles together to get something.
Yeah.
So I really do appreciate, and I could go on, but I'll try not to. I really like games that decide to play with the formula a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
It seems like we have a lot of that in the space. Just on the whole spectrum. Again, I'll bring up Undertale. I thought it was extremely weird but fun to say, hey, we're going to make an RPG, but half of it's a bullet hell type. But I also like games like Dive Kick that were essentially, this is a fighting game, but we're taking out all the moves except for one. It's you can dive into the air and you can kick out of the air. That's it. That's all you have. Which
creatively named.
Yeah, the most creatively named, and they played to that. They knew it was trying to be funny, but I think what you get when you just kind of play around with mechanics and just have fun with it is they essentially distilled a fighting game down to what is it about these that are great? What do
Right.
people get hype about? What makes these fun? And it's just trying to psych your opponent out and read them, because you don't have to worry about any complicated button presses, knowing any move sets. Like, you can kick yourself backwards, you can jump, you can kick out of the air. That's it. It only uses 2 buttons, I think, maybe even 1. It's 2 buttons, yeah. So it took out all of the fluff. I mean, not as spectacular because of that, but it really boiled down to what the game was. And I think you get that when you just kind of playing around and having.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, so I mean, let's keep experimenting. That's how we get these great games. But I think that's pretty much all we have. You having a good day today, Zufi? You having a good one?
Yeah, it's been a pretty good day so far, I think. How about you guys? You having a good day?
Oh yeah, I'm off the next 2 days, so
Oh, well, then you're having a great day.
having a great day.
So lovely. I'm very jealous. I just started my 5-day week.
Me too.
I mean, it's so cliche to talk about, but I have to because it's so nice out. And we had the shortest but the most terrible winter. Got like 3 feet of snow. And when that happened, I said, I can't wait for the sun to come out. So yeah, I don't care. I'll talk to everybody on the street. I'll say, hey, how about that weather we're having today? Everybody's just happy to return that conversation. So, well, that's good. That's good. We just want to say thanks for sitting with us, having a little chat with us. We don't want to ramble on too long.
Oh, absolutely. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're glad you could make it. Anything else on the way out?
No, I think that's everything. Just good luck with the podcast. I can't wait to hear future guests as well.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna be using this one as the pilot. So we're saying, hey, we have this great idea, see, and we have proof that it's good because someone actually was on an episode. So,
We had a really cool conversation.
so yeah, I think there's really a space for it.
Well, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, and I want to be able to, I want to yell about Sonic stuff to more people than just my super close friends. So.
Right.
Yeah, we get sick of it eventually. Not yet, but
there's a rotation. 3 S's that everybody needs in their life: Sonic, Splatoon, Steven Universe. That's all I'm saying. It's like the food groups, but of my interest instead.
you gotta stay fresh.
Yeah, you gotta stay fresh. You gotta go fast. And you gotta save the day. I didn't think I was gonna be able to do it, but I did. Anyway, well, you want to just I'll give the information again, real quick, Steph.
Sure. You can find us here. I'm on Tumblr at the Snow Queer. I also write for the Lady Geek Girl and Friends blog under Lady Psycha. Dom.
You can find me pretty much anywhere that I'd want you to find me, as Brother Dom on the tweets. But I also write over at the Lady Geek Girl and Friends blog, ladygeekgirlandfriends.wordpress.com. You search it, I'm pretty sure it's the first thing that pops up anyway. Over there, we just kind of same thing that we were talking about. It's pop culture, but
The
social
feminist
justice
twist.
bend to it. Because justice isn't just a genre, as the tagline will say. Go check it out. It's a nice place. So, thanks again, Zufi, for spending some time with us, and we hope to have you back once we're started proper.
Oh, I would love to.
And let us know again where we can find you on Twitter.
On Twitter, I'm at SOEZufit. That's SOETZUFIT. And you can find my podcast, Pop Culture Coven, at popculturecoven.simplecast.fm.
Awesome.
Go check it out. We definitely want to promote everybody who comes and has something to promote. Get it out there and have a good time. And we'll have a name for you by the time the next episode comes. But until next time, take it easy.
Have a good one.